everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ninja Bunny Crafting. It is a good build today. We're going to do a fishing shack. I actually got inspired by this one, pretty fun, and I'm going to explain the inspiration behind this, because I think it kind of helps to explain it. My wife bought me this little pack of like 4 little look like trouts or something, little fish, from Michael's. It was on clearance, and my first thought was, hey, I could build this little stand and just put some craft string, wrap around, glue the fish on the end, and it'll look like something that you see fish hanging from in a market, at a campsite, something like that. And then I got inspired. My ADHD kicked in a good way, and it was something that I could actually control for once, because as I got inspired, I decided I'd write down my little notes, and I decided that we were going to make a fishing shack. An old school fishing shack. And as I worked on it, I took the time to think about things as they popped in my head and wrote them down, made a plan to incorporate them. So we're not just going to make a little fishing shack, a little thing with a couple of fish hanging. We're going to make a couple other accessories like a fishing net and some rope. So let's dive into this. And before we dive into it, I want to tell you guys that I started this build out with a nice recording, but it's been 100 plus degrees, and my craft room has no AC. In fact, the only way I survive making any kind of things is for a short period of time with this fan. This has been my lifesaver. So this build started out with me cutting out just a random land shape for where the shack was going to go. I don't have that recorded, and I apologize. And I'm telling you that here in the opening because the footage got lost in the heat when my phone actually finally just went down. The heat killed my old phone. Something went down and the screen went black. So I could not recover that video because it hadn't uploaded to my cloud yet. So we're going to start this build off at a different point. Just know that if you're going to do this build, you're going to want to make a random shape for wherever you're going to put this, just for your ground piece. And you can use not PVC, pink styrofoam insulation board, or you can use white ready core foam. Again, if I seem a little right now, I have the script here for the intro in front of me, but my craft room, the temperature right now, even with the little fan on me, is 100 degrees. Even. We had a little bit of a rainstorm, which let me get in and get some like quick video touch-up done and editing in here, and some voiceover work done. But that rain's gone, sun's out, and this intro video is about 3 minutes of hell. So please, guys, as always, if you like anything I'm doing, give me a like, a share, and a subscribe. Give me a comment down below if you think maybe I can improve this. If I can't improve, whatever. If you just want to chat at me about some of your favorite tabletop games, leave me a comment down below. Let's get into this video. I can't wait to see your guys' reactions and what you think of this. And I'm doing a first-time experiment in this build. I really should test out things before I experiment, but hey, it went well, and I think it's something cool. So I started this build off by just grabbing some pink insulation foam and decided I'd start ripping some planks and some posts out of it, you know, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and then probably cutting it down to like 1 inch for the boards. Now, the original shot for this was supposed to be me cutting a piece of white ready core foam board into an odd shape for the ground, but like I said, being 100 degrees in the crafting room at the time I cut that piece, the camera did not like that heat, so we don't have that photo for you folks, but you'll see it a little bit later. Now, as you can see here, I'm just getting, like I said, a bunch of these pieces cut up real quick on the hot wire cutter table. The Proxxon table makes it a little easier to get these straight edge cuts. If you don't have a hot wire cutter table, folks, don't worry about it too much. You can do this with a razor blade really easy. This is just, you know, a little bit quicker and a little bit easier on me. At this point here, I see that I've got just what I want, but I'm going to take this little beveled edge off to give me that nice kind of like 4x4 looking post. In this case, by scale size, it'd probably be more around like a good foot thick railroad tie, but that's nitpicking the size issues here. So the inspiration for this build honestly was that my wife had got me, like I said, these like fish from Michael's. They were on clearance, she said, and my first thought was just, hey, let's build like this little like stand to hold some hanging fish. And of course, from that, my ADHD said, well, why just do that? That's such a simple little thing, and nobody cares to see that. And I started writing out plans for this, the fishing shack. So as you can see here, I'm just getting some posts ready, because my plan is to have this fishing shack have a dock and the shack itself to be sitting on like a platform above like a beach and watery area. So I'm just cutting up some like basically posts that the entire platform would in real life set itself upon. And I'm just trying to get a bunch of these guys about the same height, same, pretty uniform. That way it's a little bit of an easier build. It helps. I think I went up about 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches on them. Now I'm getting here the platform set up. I grabbed some Ready Core foam board. I'm just gonna cut them into a couple of rectangles, 4x6, and then I'm gonna do 2x6. And I think I cut a couple extra shapes out here as well, just to be safe in case I ended up needing them. And that's for the platforms. While we're at it, we're also gonna cut out the side walls for the shack. We're not gonna cut out our roof though, because we have something unique for the roof going on here. So I just take, like always, just Sharpie, fine tip Sharpie pen and a ruler to get my measurements and my marks. The fine tip Sharpie, and any Sharpie is nice again because it has that chemical in it that leaves kind of this little line inside of the foam, kind of eats away at it, which makes it a little easier to follow the cut points when you're using a razor blade or even hot wire cutter or hot wire table. Like I said, now we're getting ready for the sidewalls on the shack. And again, just a razor blade is all I use for the Ready Core foam. You could use anything, but I just don't see why. Remember, Ready Core foam has that paper. Peel it off when you're done. I do this usually off camera, but I'm going to remind anybody that has never seen these processes before. Ready Core foam, the stuff that you get at the Dollar Tree, dollar store, I think in Canada it's called Dollarama. It's a nice thin set of foam that you can use for any kind of crafting, but it has like this paper on the back of it that you really just want to like peel away. That way you can texture anything to it, because it's not really fun to glue with it either, because like the glue doesn't go through the paper and soak into the foam, so like it can just peel away and you'd lose anything that paper was attached to. Now here you can see I've got some 3x2 and some 2x2 pieces cut out for the wall of the shack. And we're just gonna lay them down here, and I think I go about every 1/8 of an inch here. I'm just gonna make a little line to indicate wood boards. I kind of like the way it looks, to be fair, but if you wanted to go with like a metal shack or something else like that, you could do a different technique. As you always are king or queen or whatever in your world. So here I just took a wire brush, and that's what I like to use to give me the look of wood grain in something. You just kind of take it the long way, give it a single streak with a little bit of pressure, not a lot, and it'll just groove into that foam, any kind of foam, and make a great look of wood texturing. Now here I'm getting ready to make the dock, and what I want for the dock is I want it to have individual like layers of boards, just individual boards set down. I don't want this to be a solid piece. I don't think it looks as good if it's a solid piece. And after a bit, I got sick of like every board looking the same, so I decided to freehand a couple, so a few boards looked different, like they were hand cut by an old fisherman or a set of fishermen. Because we're going with a fishing shack. I mean, people come out to this thing and they're fishing. They're gathering food. They might live here. The old fisherman Sam might live out here, and he might be a grumpy old coot, but he's a nice guy. And since we're prepping our dock, I'm going to cut some bamboo skewers. I could have used some foam for this, but I didn't think the foam would give me the structural stability I wanted to play on the dock. So I just took a simple thing of bamboo skewers, as you can see on my mat there, cut them about 4 inches long, and then I'm going to use them basically to glue the planks to, and I'm probably going to run them through a couple planks or glue them on the side of planks. I end up deciding that I'm going to glue them on the side of the planks just to hold them up. But to get this all started, I build the big plank first. That way I know where to put my dock. And it's not too hard. I figured 6 giant posts would work in reality to hold something like this up in the air above like the water and stuff. And it's not too hard. Once you have them down, you can add the wood texturing through the wire brush to these things, or you can do it ahead of time. I think I did it ahead of time. I don't know if I put that on camera or not. As you can see, here's the white Ready-Core foam. And to make things easier on myself, I didn't exactly follow that, but I kind of drew a little area for where I wanted land to be and where I wanted basically the setup, the water to be. As you can see here, I'm just going to glue down, and I cut down these little, one of the posts on the sides, the ground side, so that it looks a little bit better, a little bit nicer, a little bit neater. And then all I do here is I'm just attaching the bamboo skewers, using something to hold them up in the air. I think it was a scrap piece of foam, just a little bit. If you have the patience and you can do it, you can just sit there and maybe hold it up yourself. And once you've got it done, your posts that are going to be visible, the tops that are going to be visible, like you saw me there do, just take a wire brush and either tap it in a bunch or give it a quick swirl. Not much, otherwise you'll dig it out. So you just want to give enough to rip up the top of that and make it look like wood. And then once you've got that all set up, again, attach your bamboo skewers, glue them onto the side, right? Wait for it all to be good and dry. That's what I did here. Once it was all good and dry, I put the posts that are at the end of the dock out in the water. That way I know exactly where everything is going to fall for my planks on my dock. Now, you've always got a choice between Elmer's glue, PVA glue, or in this case, tacky glue. I am a fan of the tacky glue as always, and I use a combination of it and PVA glue when using foam, because PVA glue gives me a little bit more time to work with it than tacky glue, though that doesn't really matter in reality. But tacky glue, in my opinion, and it feels like, I've never actually sat down with a clock or timed it, feels like it dries a little bit faster with foam than PVA glue. I'm getting ready here now. I'm going to put some boards on the side of that top, platform there because, well, obviously they had to build on more than just, the pylon sticking out of the water here. So we're just going to take some thin board here and we're going to cut it to look the sides, and then we're going to cut some to look like the risers for some stairs that are going to take you up to that top platform as well. And we're just going to figure out where we're going to position them. I end up positioning these on the back. Originally I thought I would position them on like the dock, so you'd go onto the dock and then the steps up there, but it didn't end up working out that way. When I looked at it, I didn't like it. Now we're getting ready for the walls too. as you can see here, we haven't put up our stairs, but we're on this point, so we might as well hit it while we're making thin things. I've stripped a few pieces of thin Riddicore foam here, and I'm just going to use them to make the door frame. It's pretty easy, pretty simple to do. You just kind of cut it out and get it ready to go. In fact, when we get ready to make the door, you'll think that's easy as well, because the whole point of this build was speed. Unfortunately, even though it was relatively a quick build, the heat in this summer months made it so slow and take forever. I can't kid enough here. I was probably doing maybe 10-15 minutes worth of work on this building at a time each day. If I add up the total times this building maybe took, plus dry time, for the water effects here, probably took 52 hours. It really only took me about 4 hours to get everything cut up and built, but man, 100-degree weather in your craft room, you just can't get it done. So, I'm getting ready to put up these steps. I cut a notch in a post, and I cut a notch in the board here so that I can slide them together and just kind of get them to clip in really good, and I wanted a little bit of overhang. And before I can put up my steps, I have to have these side raisers on. So I'm just going to get them on so that I can get everything ready. Alright, so getting ready for the steps, I just pick a location where I think it'll work and where I think I've got enough distance for everything to be set up. And I just stick it down and glue it on and give everything a little bit of time to dry. Now, I left this one piece on back there for a little while thinking I would do something with it, and I ended up cutting it off so it was square like all the others. Now I'm getting ready to build the steps. The steps are pretty easy. I recommend just taking a toothpick, sticking the pokey in through a little bit, not too far. This was probably a little too far in all honesty how far I did it. And then just take some glue, PVA glue, tacky glue, and then just stick and secure. Once that's all said and done and it's dried up, you'll be ready to glue it on to your platforms or wherever you need steps. Honestly, this is probably a great step, and I wish I'd have shot this from above. Would have been a lot easier to show. But you can clip off excess wood that sticks out from the toothpick, and when you do all your painting and whatnot, that little nub actually makes it look like an old wood carpenter's nail or something like that. It's kind of cool. Now, as I'm attaching the steps here, I get this great idea. I break a little plank that I just made so that it has something to sit on, and then I'm going to take another plank or two and stick it in front of it so that when I add the sand and whatnot, it looks like somebody threw planks in to walk on in case it got muddy, rainy, or they just didn't want to walk on the hot sand. when I had these steps finished, I didn't like the open look there. So I just cut up and textured a couple more pieces of ready core foam to look like they were like 2x4s, or in the actual size comparison, they'd probably be around like 2x10s or 2x8s. And then I just stuck them on the side to also help add some stability. And like I said, I threw in a couple planks on the ground for, well, I just really like the way they look, and I added the reasons already, in case it was hot, rainy. It felt like it needed that. So we're gonna seal this up with a lot of black Mod Podge, because this one I'm going to do something I've never done before, and I'm going to use all-terrain water effects on this build. So I want it to be nice and sealed. I don't want water, this like resiny water stuff, to seep out through the foam in any way, shape, or form. And this is a big build, so this had a lot of nooks and crannies, and actually took 2 go-overs. But I recorded the first go-over here because that was the one that took the longest. And honestly, taking the longest, well, no one wants to see me painting over black again. I mean, that's silly, right? So once everything was primed and dried and sealed and all that jazz, I went over with a very, very light brown and a light yellow, added in a dabby white, and started brushing everything with this very toned down, like kind of chocolate pudding looking brown. And I did this first because honestly, if I have brown on the ground when I go to add in the color effects for water, who cares? I can paint over that. It would suck to paint brown over the blue though. And I did this with the shack as well, but I did this in an even thinner, more watered down version because I'm gonna put another color of paint over it, and I want that color of paint to look like, well, paint that it's soaked into old wood. And the roof is, I found those cool coffee stirry sticks, so I dip them in like this brownish water so they'll soak it up, and I can use this as rafters for the shack. Now, as I said, I'm getting ready to do this water thing, but my first thought is I need a basin, something for it to hold into. So I'm going to take tacky glue and sand first and create a little outline for the beach here, and then go back through and fill in with sand afterwards. I might even urge you on this one, because I did 2 layers on the edges here to build up the little pond area, I guess you would call it, the little lagoon area worth of sand. I would urge you maybe go through and do it 3 times just to give yourself a little extra water. And then here I made a little mistake. I should have just kept using tacky glue. I used what I use for flocking, a watered down PVA glue. Not good with the sand. I had to scrape off a lot off those planks and repaint the planks because the sand just soaked up the water. So if you're gonna do this like I did, stick with the tacky glue. Just stick with tacky glue or undiluted PVA glue. Do not use diluted. And do anything you can, what you got to, however you have to get, your sand in there the rest of the way. I just would smear tacky glue in and then took, my hand with a rubber glove there, and just smeared it over and just kept dumping sand in and swirling it around until I got as much sand everywhere as I could. Once I got the sand down, I just applied, this is actually just tan paint and light yellow. It's 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 drops of tan to 1 drop of light yellow, and then watered it down so that I could spread it over. And it really took on the sand color very well, I think. I might do that in the future for other sand projects. Now here I'm using an aqua blue, and then I'm going to use pool blue toward the center to make it darker. I was hoping in this heat that I would be able to do some color blending, but the heat made that impossible. I should have known better. I should have really watered this paint down a lot more than I did, so that it would have held up long enough for me to kind of blend the pool blue and the aqua blue together to give a nice middle ground. Even though that didn't happen, I was still very happy with how this came out. And like I said, all I did here was near the edges and near some of the pylons there, I paint everything with an aqua blue. And then toward the center, I just used pool blue, and then I was going to add black toward the center, but with the heat and realizing I couldn't mix the colors, I did not try to do any color blending. I just let it sit as is. So here I just take a little bit of, if you remember my camping video, some of my personally made flocking here and a little bit of watered down PVA glue, and I just stick it along the bottoms of the pylon to give you that kind of weird, like mossy sea rock growth that happens there. I thought I put some along the sand there and did not like it, so immediately ripped it off. If you don't like it, don't put it. And then we're just going to do a dry brushing here. I used fog gray because, again, I want the wood to look weathered. I want it to look aged. It's been next to the water. I mean, if you've ever been on a wood dock near water, it's not a brown color. It's not even a like yellowish tan color. It's all this like grays and whites and greens. Speaking of green, that's right. I took an extremely watered down forest green here and just painted it onto the shack. Because I wanted the shack to feel something more than just a brown. I wanted it to feel like somebody had built this place, had loved it, had taken care of it. Maybe the paint's fading and somebody's going to put a new paint job on soon. Who knows? But that's the feel I wanted. And the only way to really get that look really good, in my opinion, was first, like I said, to paint this the brown color to get the wood look. And then to take the watered down paint and just slowly brush it over. Now let's make the wood door for that. And this is simple. I just took some cardstock, cut it to the door shape, took some toothpicks, glued them onto it, and then cut the tips off of them. And now we're going to make a window for this guy. Here you just want to take an ultramarine blue or very, very bright blue, dark blue, whatever you want, and then white, and then give some streaks. And then once they've had a second to sit there, take a dry brush and just fan them over so it gives like the streaks of light. I'm going to take some bamboo skewers here. I'm going to cut them to size, and then I'm going to literally cut them in half by just kind of taking a razor knife, as you saw there, and pressing down at the top until it splits them in half. And then I'm just going to glue them along this little window here we made and wait for them to dry, and then we're going to add some UV resin to make it look even shinier like a glass window. Taking those coffee stirrers that I let sit in that brown wash for a while so that it would help kind of bring out any of the natural bamboo grain in it. And we're just going to glue them right on. I'm taking another brown wash here for the door, putting it all over the toothpicks, and later I'm going to stick 2 pieces of craft twine on that so it looks like some rope holding it together. Now let's make the roof. I've got this weird cardboard that's corrugated there, and I just cut it to the size of the roof, as you can saw. Real quick, as you could see. And once that was all said and done, I just went over with some black Mod Podge like we were going to seal it, and we're going to put it all over it because this stuff is not very strong, and what's going to happen is the Mod Podge and the paint are actually going to stiffen those like bubbles up to give it more of a corrugated metal steel look. Of course, now we're going to use our UV resin here. We're going to add it in because everything's nice and dry and it's going to be held in. And if you don't want to do this step, you don't have to. What you did with the blue and the little white streaks there are going to make it look like it's reflecting light in a window anyway. This is just going to add some shine because I'm a freak and I love the way this color looks purple on camera. Like, bwang. To let this, we just cure for 5 minutes. All right, once it's all said and done, I'm going to take silver craft paint to that roof because it'll be dried by then. And I'm going to add that to it, all over it, and then I'm just going to let it dry. Hey, look at that, it's dry. I love camera editing. Anyway, once it's all said and done, and you're going to want to get your shack ready to be finished up, we're going to take some tacky glue here for the door, and we're going to stick that door we made right to it, and that piece of cardboard or whatever is going to be gone. If you've got a little lip there like I do, don't worry, some scissors and you can trim it off. It's gone, it'll lay flat. Alright, now right here I'm putting on a wash. For those that don't know, the wash here is not my normal one. It is actually gray. Normally I would do a brown and black mixed wash because it adds this look of aged weather and dirt to it, but here on the water side, that wouldn't help much. So what I did was use a gray wash for all of the wood that would be exposed to the water. And now we are using the water effect. What I'm using is called all-terrain realistic water effect. It was cool. It was really cool. The problem with this is it takes 24 hours to cure, and it is viscous. So I had to make sure that it didn't droop over, didn't go over anywhere, and I was really worried that the little bead of UV resin I used in the front as a dam would not hold. I did spill a little on there, as you can see, but I quickly cleaned it up. If you do it quick enough, you don't have to worry about it leaving a shine or anything. And then taking a popsicle stick just to kind of encourage it to flow in the spots it hadn't. And then I had to sit there for 24 hours and do nothing. As you can see, I did something in the meantime. That was, I put this roof on, and then I used a little bit of sand to weight it down. If you remember our scatter terrain video, I'm going to make some barrels up real quick because this fishing shack needs to feel alive. And we're going to build terrain just for our shack. Now, these are little mini yarn spools I got at Michael's. They weren't too expensive. They're like $2, $2.50. And I'm just going to paint the little lips there black because, you know, that's cool. And then we're going to paint them brown. Get them all painted up so that they look like barrels. This is cool. This is going to look like fishing net when we're done. I got this idea from the Crafting Muse. So it's just PVA glue with some tan paint and water down to the consistency of milk. And I didn't have press and seal like she did. I just had saran wrap. So I saran wrapped some spare foam and just placed my netting on there. You see I'm painting the barrels brown. And I'm going to get them made up. If you want to, when they're done being painted brown, take a fine tip Sharpie and draw some lines on the tops and the bottom to give you that wood planking look for it. And if this one isn't cool enough for you, I don't know what will be. We're going to make some rope. Just take some crafting twine. I'm using, I think, a bamboo skewer or a paintbrush here. Just wrap the twine around it and then just kind of take some tacky glue, watered down PVA glue, whichever you're fine with, and work it in there as you wrap it up, and then pull the thing out and it'll be a perfectly little like spool of rope. Once your netting's dry, go over it with a quick dry brush of white. Just you want the little netting from the cheesecloth to pop out there, and it's going to look really good. So just give it a quick little dry brush and you're going to be happy. Don't do a heavy dry brush. I cannot stress this enough. A heavy dry brush just like takes all the depth and the color away from the netting, and it just ruined it. So trial and error here. Telling you, trial and error. Light dry brush. Alright, so right now I decided I needed a little something else here, and that was the original inspiration, the fish stand. So I just took some bamboo skewers, cut them down about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, sanded them so that they were nice and smooth on the bottom and would stand a little bit better. And just started building a little A-frame stand for them. I used super glue to attach everything here, and then once it was all set and attached, before I added anything else, I gave them like a brown stain to it so that it would look more like kept up wood, and added a cross brace with some toothpicks across it to give it that true A-frame look. This here is my own personal way of doing rust on silver. If you have an orange colored pencil, take a ton of the shavings, just a razor blade, and shave a bunch of it off into a thing, and then take brown sepia wash until you get it to almost a muck state. You want that much of the shavings in there, and then dab it and brush it all over something that you want to take on a kind of brown orange rust look. For the wood here, I am of course adding a brown and black wash, my traditional favorite style of wash, just because it'll make things look a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit better and help bring out some of those wood lines. Because after you paint it up, you can see it on camera, the wood grain kind of just like gets muddled and hidden. So adding the black wash will bring it out more. Now to get the fish ready, I want them to hang. So I'm going to take some of the craft twine, wrap it around the top pole here, just get it enough to dangle, and then once it's all dried up, I'm going to go back over, just put a little bit of super glue in the fish's mouth and hold it there for a few seconds until the rope and the fish, securely bond each other, and then we're going to leave it. And then, once it's all said and done, if you need to trim any of the strings, put it all together and see what it looks like. The old fisherman Sam busted into the tavern, ranting and raving, screaming for help. Damn fished people had invaded his shack, and they brought with them a dire crocodile. He needed anyone to help. His catch of the day would sit and rot if no one could help him. And that means the local orphanage would go hungry without its free supply of local fish. What are you and the party going to do? There you have it, everyone. And to think, in all honesty, that entire thing, like I said, came from a little pack of fish my wife got me because she thought, hey, he'll probably want to make a marketplace fish thing out of this. Amazing, isn't it? So, I hope you guys really enjoy this. Remember, we do have a Patreon. I'm going to try and get to updating it more and more, try to offer something if you join Patreon. But I have a Patreon over there. It's Ninja Bunny Crafting at Patreon. So if you want to help support me, go over there, join up. You can get into my Discord. We can have regular chats, all that kind of stuff. If you thought this was fun, as always, give me that like, give me a share, give me a comment. If you think I suck, give me a comment. Everything helps. Thanks, guys. Remember, get out there and craft something.